Hi, I'm Dr. Alex Canseco. I'm a mom, a vet, and a creative. Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, do check out my trailer. This video is for you if you're a mom who's currently breastfeeding and working or about to return to work, or you're an employer who wants to know more about the law as it pertains to lactation breaks for your employees, or just generally want to know how to accommodate an employee who is breastfeeding. I will be discussing the United States law as it pertains to lactation breaks. I will also talk about how to maintain your milk supply, my current pumping and breastfeeding routine, as well as the products that I use. Just a disclaimer, I am not a lactation consultant and I'm not pretending to be an expert on the topic. I just want to share with you my personal experience as well as the research that I have done on the law, and hopefully help other mothers out there who are having trouble or just need more information on the topic. If you want to continue breastfeeding while you're working, it is going to be very important that you pump at work. You will have to pump at work if you want to maintain your milk supply, especially if you're at work for longer than 3 to 4 hours at a time. Now, this is most important within the first few months postpartum, and that pumping interval will definitely get longer as your baby gets older, but that's sort of the starting point. Pumping will be really important for you to make milk for your baby to consume while you're at work, and also to maintain your milk supply while you're away from your baby. Remember that milk production is a supply and demand system. So you use it or you lose it. It's also really important that you familiarize yourself with the law as it pertains to lactation breaks at work, and that you do take the necessary lactation breaks to maintain your milk supply. So here it is. This is what I found out regarding the law. The American Affordable Care Act requires employers to provide, and I quote, a reasonable amount of time for the employee to express milk for up to 1 year after the birth of the child, each time that employee has the need to express milk. All employers, regardless of the number of employees that they have, must comply with the break time for nursing mothers law. If the business has fewer than 50 employees and are not wanting to provide nursing mother time for lactation breaks, then they can potentially get an exemption. To receive an exemption for that employee, the employer must prove that providing these accommodations could cause significant difficulty or expense when considered in relation to the size, the financial resources, the nature or structure of the employer's business. But until they are granted an exemption by the Department of Labor, they must comply with the law. If your employer has 50 or more employees and they refuse to provide you with a lactation break, then they are breaking the law. And in that situation, you have a couple of options. You can file a lawsuit, or you can report your employer's actions to the Labor Commissioner. And the US Department of Labor's Wage and Hour Division, the WHD, is responsible for enforcing the Break for Nursing Mothers law. So what you can do is you can call the toll-free number 1-800-487-9243, and you will be directed to your nearest WHD office for further assistance. Individual state laws may actually provide greater protections for employees. For example, they may actually compensate your time during your lactation breaks. They may provide break time for exempt employees, or they provide break time beyond 1 year after your child's birth. Contact your state or local breastfeeding coalition to find out if you're covered by state law. And you can also join the United States Breastfeeding Committee, the USBC, in the fight to extend workplace breastfeeding protection to more employees by asking legislators to co-sponsor the Supporting Working Moms Act. I will post links down below if you need more information on any of the topics I've covered so far, so do check those out. It is best to discuss your breastfeeding plans with your employer before you return to work or before you give birth to your baby. My employer has been really accommodating. They've been awesome. They have provided me with my own little room for pumping. It used to actually be a storage closet, but it does their job just fine. They put a nice little comfortable chair in there, cushions, a little side table, another little table. It locks, no one can get in there. It's perfect. So I love it. It's great. My son is now 14 months old and I'm still happily breastfeeding. I'm super psyched about that. Initially, I thought I'd be lucky if I went 6 months, and I've gone past a year now, so it's wonderful. And on a typical work day, I will breastfeed him at 6 a.m. and oftentimes I will be leaving for work after that. But if I do start later, I may even feed him again at 8 and 10 a.m. And then during the day, he will either stay with his dad or with his grandparents, and they will give him some of my stored milk. And of course, at this age, he also gets solid food, so he gets breakfast, lunch, and dinner as well. Initially, when I went back to work, I did pump to and from work, so in the car, and that's the topic of my next video, pumping and driving. So do subscribe and do hit that bell button so that you're notified when that video comes out if you're interested in that. So I did pump to and from work, and I did pump twice in the middle of the day as well. So I had 4 pumping sessions when I went back to work at 5 months postpartum. I typically have a 10-hour work day, so those worked out to be every 3 to 4 hours, my pumping breaks. Right now, I only pump on my way to work, once at lunchtime for about 30 minutes, and then again, sometimes again when I get home, depending on what time I get home and whether or not Owen's already asleep. So if I get home late and he's sleeping and I feel full, I will pump for about 10 minutes just to relieve my breasts, and then I'll feed him once I get into bed. Now here are 7 tips on how to maintain your milk supply while you work. So first of all, you want to maintain a regular pumping schedule while you're at work and try to make sure that it mimics your breastfeeding schedule at home as closely as possible. Number 2, you want to nurse when you're at home, and theoretically you could also pump instead of working, but just remember that your baby is going to be a lot more efficient at emptying your breasts than any pump out there. Don't be tempted to dip into your extra stash, because skipping any breastfeeding or pumping session could seriously affect your milk supply. Number 3, nurse your baby before and after work. Number 4, if you feel like your milk supply is dropping, you can try to fit in another pumping session at work or at home. You can also do power pumping. Once again, that's a topic for another video. Number 5, you want to avoid stress. Now, this is easier said than done, especially if you have a really intense job, but do your best, because stress does really affect oxytocin hormone, which is critical for milk supply. So just try and take a deep breath, and if you're stressed out, and chillax. Number 6, you want to let your baby nurse through the night. I co-sleep. I know that's a really controversial topic, or can be a controversial topic. Not for everybody, so that may be one that you skip, but it works for me. I do it. Obviously, there are lots of other methods to boost your milk supply or maintain your milk supply, so don't worry about that one. If your baby sleeps in their own nursery and sleeps through the night and all the rest, don't worry about that. But if they're co-sleeping, that's one other thing you can add in. And then finally, number 7 is eat well and stay hydrated, because if you're not eating well and you're not putting enough water into your body will not have anything to make that milk with. It needs those building blocks for milk production, so super important. Okay, now I'm going to show you my supplies for work, what I take with me in my nursing bag, in my pumping bag. I received this bag for my baby shower, actually from my co-workers, and this is the Jujube bag. It's not specifically designed for the pump I have, but it works great. I do have a Spectra S2 pump, which I absolutely love. If you're wondering what pump to get, I highly recommend that one. This is my Spectra S2. I keep it in this large compartment. It's in perfectly. And then in the larger compartment, I keep all my flanges and bottles. What I did, I bought extra flanges, so I have a total of 6 flanges or 3 pairs. So then I have these Ziploc bags, and I have one for dirty parts, I have one for rinsed parts, and I have one for clean parts. So after I pump, I put my flanges and my bottles in the dirty bag. And when I get out of the pump room, what I will do, I will rinse just my 2 bottles in boiling hot water. So I'll put the bottles in the rinsed bag. The flanges will stay in the dirty bag to be washed at home when I get home. And then I put these rinsed bottles into the fridge or the freezer where I'm putting the milk that day. So I either put my milk into the Lansino storage bags or into glass jars. This is another pocket where I keep my Lansino storage bags, and these are awesome. These work great. I haven't had any leaks with them. Just make sure that you're not overfilling them. My lactation consultant said that essentially you don't need to even have a milk stash in your freezer. Theoretically, the best thing to do is actually produce fresh milk each day while you're at work, put it into storage containers. You know, I had these little ball glass jars. You can freeze them or put them in the fridge. Make sure you get freezable ones. If you're getting glass ones, make sure they are freezable. And I will alternate. Sometimes I will produce fresh milk for the fridge. Other times I will put it into my Lansino storage bags. I was too much of a stress head not to have a freezer milk stash at home. What if something goes wrong? What if you have to go on medications that are passed through the breast milk? You just never know. You have an accident and you can't be home with your baby. I think it's always a good idea to have a freezer stash of milk. And then I do use this front pocket essentially as a bag. So I have my wallet in here, my keys, my phone, and I also keep a Sharpie here to mark my milk storage bags. Here's a tip. I do also recommend bringing with you in your pump bag to work a manual pump. Like I said, I'm a super stress head. I want to be super prepared. So I bring my manual pump just in case something goes wrong with my electric pump. And I love, love, love this Medela hand pump. So I don't like the electric Medela, but I love the hand pump. It's actually even better than any electric pump that I've used in emptying my milk supply. Super awesome. And if I do hand pump, it's hard to double hand pump. I mean, you can theoretically do that, but it is difficult. And then you're basically stuck there for 15 minutes. You can't touch anything else because you're pumping. I like to be on my phone, check emails while I'm pumping at work, that sort of thing. So I like to multitask. So the way I do that is I would hand pump on one side, then put this Harker pump on the other side, and I'd rotate. But also, if you are sharing a space with any other people where you are pumping at work, you do want to make sure you have some disinfecting wipes to wipe any surfaces and prevent any contamination of your milk. It's also a good idea just to do that intermittently anyway. The other thing I bring with me is this wonderful little cooler bag. It's called the Packet, and I bought this from Bye Bye Baby. And what I really like about it is that it has inbuilt ice packs. So there's an ice pack here in the lid, there's an ice pack, double ice pack here on the bottom, and ice packs on the edges. The thing I have in my bag is another little bag, and in here I keep some hand sanitizer, which I use before pumping, every time before I pump. I have some nipple cream, and I'll talk about why I have this in my next video, so stay tuned. And I have my pumping bra, and that's it in that little bag. Here are a couple of other options that I wanted to mention because I think that they could be very helpful for moms that are finding it difficult to set aside time for pumping while at work. I mentioned these two specifically because they are both in-bra wearable systems that appear to offer great flexibility in terms of how and when they can be used. I do not have any personal experience with them, but I've heard great things, especially about the Freemie cups. Both are concealable under clothing, which is awesome. And I've heard of moms using the Freemie while sitting and watching a lecture at a conference and even while performing surgery. The main difference between the two is that the Freemie has cords and lines, whereas the Willow pump is a cordless, completely integrated, standalone pump system and can apparently be used in any position without spilling milk. The Freemie cups are simply collection cups that can be added onto multiple different pump systems, including the Spectra S2. And this brings us to the end of our video. So to summarize, do make sure you familiarize yourself with the law as it pertains to lactation breaks. And if you're having any trouble with milk supply or breastfeeding, do speak to your lactation consultant. Do that sooner rather than later. Don't wait till it's too late. There are wonderful support groups out there as well. I had joined one called the Lactation Lounge through a local birthing center and my lactation consultant. I used to go every week for the first 3 months after Owen was born, and it's a wonderful little circle of mothers who are breastfeeding at the same time and exchanging information, personal experiences. Really got some great tips from that group. So contact your local breastfeeding coalition or Leche League about groups in your area. If you like this video, please subscribe. Hit the bell button so that you get notifications about when I post my next videos, and most importantly, enjoy. See you guys later. Bye.